Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's almost the weekend. We're your host, Grant Gohn, Sybilla Bakzaza, and the title of this show is why the 49ers should make the transition from Jimmy Garropolo to Trey Lance right now. That's what we're going to be talking about. But first, we want to go back. Sybil always wants her opportunity to have her take on the previous game. It's been almost a week, but I haven't spoken to Sybil in a week. So before we move on to the future, let's briefly look back at this loss to the Cardinals. What was your takeaway, particularly with those penalties?
Okay, so we can start with the penalties, of course. Nothing kills the drive like penalties. That's nothing new. There's nothing novel to what I'm saying there. Seeing the progress that the offense was making as far as plays and things like that, and to have 30 yards of holding on a single drive, you'll never win. You will not win on that drive, at least. So it's something they have to clean up. And the holdings were egregious, too. There was really only one which I think sprung the play, and that was the McGlinchey hold. McGlinchey has got to clean those up because he had more than one holding call in this game. So that's bad. That was a horrible game for him. I mean, that kind of game put tape together, which honestly, for me, makes him a draft bust. That was my impression. And I've never been down on McGlinchey, but I acknowledge his weakness. And at this point, I think they need to move on from him. That was a bad game.
Would you like to see Jalen Moore out there?
I mean, at this point, why not get someone else reps?
Why not? Yeah.
So yes, I would.
Okay.
The Benjamin hold, I don't understand why he's being featured so much. And that hold was unnecessary. Lance is a big guy. He's hard to tackle. I have some things to say about that as well. But that was terrible. The holding calls were unforgivable. So didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay, here, real quick. This is what I want to say about this game. It kills me. I think the Niners were in position to win it. When Dante Johnson forced the fumble and they recovered at their own 46, down 3, with 8 minutes left, 8+, the game's in your, the momentum is totally swung to you. You should get points on this drive, and it should end with you at least tied or winning. And Kyle, after the game, basically blamed his players for not executing on the next 4 plays and admitted that's where we lost the game. We needed to get something there, but what we did on those plays will really haunt. I don't know if he said it'll haunt me or whatever he said, but I didn't like his calls. First down, drop back pass. Why? Second, incomplete. Second, he calls 3 drop back passes in a run in that series. All 3 drop back passes are incomplete. The run gets 6 yards. Dude, what are you doing? It's a perfect situation to run. You haven't trusted Trey Lance to throw the ball all game. You're calling quarterback power. You call quarterback power one time in that series. It gains 6 yards. You go pass the next 2. What are you doing? It's the same thing in the Super Bowls. Exactly. Why are you passing? Why? It's a run-first team. That's how your offensive line is built. You don't trust any of your quarterbacks to throw. Dude, just run. And in that situation, you were afforded the ability to run because of time and field position in the score, and it just kills me that he did that and just says, well, they have to execute. That's how they lost.
Yeah. Also, there was another thing that happened here. I do not like all of the 4th down failed conversions. I don't like all the 4th down calls. When you're 4th down and 4 and midfield, roughly, and the defense is having this titanic day. I mean, I have a lot of notes on things, especially in the secondary and then the linebackers that I would like to see cleaned up by the defense. But all in all, this is the air raid offense. It's a high-powered offense. They've got the wide receivers and the running back, the quarterback that they do. They did a good job of containing these guys, all things considered. This was a Herculean effort. Why did they not call a game in the classic football way? Who goes for 4th down so many times and fails? I understand the one at the goal line. And when I saw that, I was even kind of like, all right, cool. I like that. Shanahan is finally, he's trying to punch it in. He knows he needs points. I know you need points. But on that day, you did not need to go for the 4th down so many times. The point momentum swing in the Cardinals' favor from failing on 4th down made it easier for them to tag this game. And that was just, it's like getting outside of your coaching zone as Shanahan. That's not how you call a game.
It's true. He's never called a game like that
before. Every 4th down, you go for it.
If he hadn't gone for the 4th downs, when they got the ball back at that point in the game, they would have been up 3. They basically, I mean, assuming they made the kicks,
absolutely,
they gave up the opportunity to kick, so they would have been up 3 with the ball at midfield. And the thing
and
is,
the other thing is the yardage, the time of possession, the points that are scored to the reciprocal of their actions. That's how the Cardinals won. So the Cardinals, they had this one gift wrapped. It's almost like Shanahan came in there and said, "Oh, my defense, my offense, man, they're going to hang 40 points on us. We have to go for it recklessly." And the next thing you know, you're in a classic Cardinals Niners game of war in the trenches. And why go at 4th on 4th? That was to me what lost this game was the coaching. Absolutely.
Yeah, agree.
And excuse me, DeMeco Ryans, not you.
Yeah,
the
Kyle.
coach.
And finally, I mean, it was the 5 4th downs they went for, but the final one, 4th and 4. So I keep coming back to those 4 plays. When you get to 4th and 4 at their 48, you punt and trust your defense because they've played well all game. But the problem was it shouldn't have came to 4th and 4. They ran on 2nd down and got 6 yards. Elijah Mitchell was averaging 4.8 yards per carry. If they run on 1st and 2nd down, most likely they get to 3rd and 1, or they just run for the 1st down. Like they should have been running the ball. They should have been much more confident with how they were calling plays. Instead, they start calling drop back, no play action, just pure drop back. Why? You're not down 15. Why are you in drop back passing mode? It doesn't make any sense. It's like he's lost his mind.
I also was not a huge fan of all the power runs that they called for Trey Lance, the up the middle runs and things.
Imagine how effective play action would have been in that situation.
Yes, because it softens the gaps, like the A and B gaps. It absolutely softens them up because it keeps people honest by keeping them in their assignments.
Yes.
Like you hear the term "stay in your lane, bro." That's what it would have forced people like J.J. Watt, for instance. And even still, when I go back to the McGlinchey and J.J. Watt holding, that is okay. He's not the best lineman, but it's actually a result of the play calling by the head coach that puts him in the position of where he does commit holding calls like that, because of the fact that they're, as you said, they're not doing play action and things like that. They're not rolling out as much.
Right.
So they're forcing a mobile quarterback into the pockets and calling runs up the middle, which do work sometimes. Kaepernick could do it. Lance can certainly do it. He's really good. But just keeping him there, that's completely ineffective.
Yeah.
I also was not a huge fan of was that a wildcat formation to Juszczyk or something? What was that direct snap thing they did?
It was awful. I don't know.
I saw
whatever it was, they didn't practice it very much because they didn't know how to execute it. Whatever they were trying to do, they didn't know what they were doing. Sorry.
And that's not.
It might have been a good idea, but Kyle, these guys couldn't execute it.
Yeah, this was not a lack of. Did you say that Shanahan? I did not see that conference. Did you say that he kind of insinuated there was a lack of execution or effort?
What he said, someone said, when Dante Johnson after the game, when he forced that fumble, did you kind of feel like you had this, like you could win the game? And he said, yeah, and what we did in the next 4 plays, I forget exactly what his phrasing was, but he made it seem like the execution was the reason they lost on those 4 plays. When it's like, dude, I don't like your play calls. You went 3 passes in a quarterback run, and the run actually got you 6 yards, the 3 passes got you 0. Why are you passing? Same thing is in the Super Bowl. There's no reason to pass given the situation here. It's not what you guys do well. You're supposed to be a run-first team. You don't believe in your identity.
There was lots of time as well. This kind of like hurry-up offense.
And if you're not doing a run, it should be play action. I'm sorry. Like shotgun. And the first play, if I believe, it's shotgun with Elijah Mitchell in the backfield, and he motions out. So it's empty. It's like, okay, well, we're passing – or it's a quarterback draw. That's basically the 2 things. It's a pass or a quarterback draw at that point. That's it.
Another thing that also stood out to me in this game is one time Trey Lance fooled me, whether he was going to hand it off, pass it, or run it. One time. Yep. And the rest of it was televised massively.
There was no misdirection.
Not at all.
Kyle Shanahan used to be the misdirection king.
And he'd look out into the flats. The ball would not be in a position where he was going to pass it. Now, that's on him, but it's on the coaching to get him in the position to where he is not televising what he's going to do. But also the motion that Kyle Shanahan is known for, the misdirection, he doesn't give that to Lance. It's kind of like, okay, Lance, I'm going to give you a check down that you're not going to pass to. I'm going to call you a run up the middle. And the routes your receivers are going to run, you got one option. And so that's the thing is, like, this was not even a Shanahan style game.
He's not ready. He can't handle all that chaos. That's what he said.
I think he can.
I think he can, but Kyle is so conservative. I mean, he didn't think Jimmy Garropolo was ready to play in 2017, and then Jimmy came on and played and pretty much ad-libbed his way to a 5-0 record.
I feel there is a reason for that. And that is the fact that if you look historically at the kind of quarterbacks that Shanahan has had, I almost feel he has like some kind of PTSD from RG3 or something like just studying the film back then and the evolution of his coaching tree, essentially. It seems like ever since then he's had. I mean, I know there's arguments for and against Matt Ryan. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not against him, but he's never had someone like Trey Lance. He's never had a Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or a Russell Wilson. It's almost like he is used to coaching the Hoyers out there.
Yeah, the backup quarterback. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so his game plan is wild.
If you think about it though, real quick, when he first got into when he first made a name for himself as like a 20-something-year-old offensive coordinator in Houston, he was with Matt Schaub, who was Michael Vick's backup for a long time in Atlanta and finally got an opportunity, and Kyle made him look like a real Pro Bowler when really Matt Schaub was pretty much a backup. So that's his history.
Shanahan's game plan is not about his quarterback. It's about the other pieces of offense he has: misdirection, play action, and a really good run game that does not just rely on power. And so that's the thing. It's like the quarterback is like, okay, your job, just do what I tell you. Don't think, don't improvise, don't try to be Tom Brady. Just do what I tell you and dump the ball in this guy's hands. And so that seems to be. I mean, I still feel this would work with Trey Lance. I think he would become deadly with Trey Lance, but he's still calling a Garoppolo-style game. Yeah. Minus, of course, the runs up the middle, which do not really sit that well with me. And I want to get to that knee at some point while we're talking today, as far as like why it flared up after. But, of course, no one here is going to have the misnomer of how it happened. It's because they caused so many runs up the middle and put him in harm's way. And they turned him into like some kind of running back.
Right. Okay, so they have a decision to make right now at the bye week. What do? Kyle has said if Jimmy Garropolo is healthy, he's going to go back to Jimmy. I assume he's telling the truth. He could also be, lying. And he may have a plan to make the transition to Lance, and he may feel he needs to do it sensitively because of the locker room. Who knows? What should they do here?
Pull the plug. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Go to Trey Lance.
Why?
I don't see the point. Okay, so first off, I don't see the point of the Cardinals game in building off that, both for the defense and the offensive side of the ball, if you don't continue this momentum with Trey Lance. They came this close to knocking off the only undefeated team in football, and if their coaches had not gotten in their own way, they would. I don't think it would have been close. But I see that they could have beaten them by 10 points. That was my feeling is the Niners should have won by 10. Good game by the Cardinals, though. Very impressed with what's going on over there as far as their player personnel. Don't take it away from them. But what we saw there was hard competition, Trey Lance's first start, and he almost beat Kyler Murray.
Agree.
Why not build off that?
Yeah.
What we have from Jimmy Garropolo is... And again, it's not just his fault. It's the play calling, some defensive errors throughout these games and things like that.
And he's not going to be here next year.
He's not, right. So there's a futuristic, and that's, again, back to your point about McGlinchey. The McGlinchey experiment is done. So at this point, we have to see what we have in our deck of cards.
Thank you. Yeah.
Same thing with Garoppolo. So again, on a personal level, I like him. But as far as business and the football side of things, Trey Lance is the future. You better hope he's the future because you bet the future on him. And if he doesn't work out, guess what, 49er fans? We are going to go into another 10 years of hell.
Right. And if Jimmy Garoppolo could win the Super Bowl this year while Trey Lance is marinating or whatever you want to say, then great. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Exactly. This is almost like breaking the bank against the salary cap and signing a bunch of one-year veterans to a contract. You're all in that year. Occasionally that might work. But in this modern NFL, when you have a rookie on his contract, that's what gives you the financial flexibility to go out and get some of those players.
Right.
Jimmy Garropolo is like a medium, high-range paid quarterback, and he's serviceable. But the point is, if you dump him now, honestly, like they need to cut bait or trade him as soon as possible. It's not even about getting a return.
Trade deadline's the 2nd of November. They have time.
This is about a return on Trey Lance. That's my primary thing. If we can get anything for Garoppolo, anything at all, and absolve ourselves of that sin, then we need to move on. And the thing is, the team here, we have some great players like Kittle, Dwelly, Juszczyk. How long are these guys going to be on the team? Dwelly is a starter somewhere else. If someone would realize how good he is, they should offer him a contract next year.
Yeah, he's not going to be on this team next year.
That's not good, especially
He's
with
going to
the
be
injury-prone
gone.
nature of George Kittle. How long can we have Kyle Juszczyk? Can we find a replacement for him? Can we try? I don't think so. No, Kyle Juszczyk, I feel, is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Trent Williams is not getting any younger. We have a frail offensive line that has no draft capital behind it. We have
Alex
no
Mack
plans.
isn't getting better.
No. And we have no first rounders to just say, okay, next year, first round corner. Year after that, first round center. It's not going to happen. So what we have to do is we have to get rid of money so we can bring in veterans while we have a quarterback on his rookie contract. This is not about whether Jimmy Garropolo can win. This is about what is best for the 49ers over the next 5 years. Get rid of him.
Yeah, I think I think Lance showed enough to the point where it's pretty clear that if Jimmy does give the Niners a better chance to win, it's not that much better of a chance. I mean, just Trey Lance like scrambling around is just as effective as the dink and dunk offense. Neither one's a great offense, but one has potential to improve. The other one doesn't. Here's why I don't think they're going to make this move, though. It seems to me that – sorry, there's a lot going on. If they wanted Lance to take this job, they would have approached this game against Arizona as like a dress rehearsal of him taking it, an audition. And, well, what happened, though? The morning of, Ian Rappaport reported there's nothing Lance can do to take this job. That's what he reported, and he's always very connected to ownership in the front office. So he says that, and then the game plan for Lance is this whole different offense, not 21 personnel under center, stretch zone, play action bootleg, classic Shanahan offense. It's spread offense, 11 personnel, a lot of times empty backfield, and the running game is quarterback power and quarterback draw. Swear to God, that's what they're doing. With a little bit of zone read mixed in and a couple of toss plays. That's the offense. So what Kyle is saying is, this guy can't run my offense. If he has to make a spot start, I got to do this. I got to do some totally different offense that no one on this team is good at executing. Sorry, that's what I have to do. And that's his attitude about the situation. When Harbaugh had a chance to put Kaepernick on the field, it was like, watch him run. Oh, you think I got to do this and this and this? No. He's going to run the Alex Smith offense and do it better than Alex. Watch. And he did. And that's what he wanted to happen. For Kyle, I think Kyle has a whole different agenda right now. And that's why I think there's going back to Jimmy. If Jimmy is ready, I don't know that he is, but that's what Kyle wants to do. You think I'm wrong?
Not at all. We have no direction on this team, except that we are all in starting with Jimmy Garropolo, and we don't have to be. I think the best this team can hope for, honestly, is kind of a wild card. Slip into the playoffs, maybe get hot. There's still potential to this season, but as far as like the future goes, they have to switch to Lance. Absolutely. The other thing is, we said this at the beginning of the year. You can run the Jimmy Garoppolo offense with the sheer terror and mayhem that a running mobile quarterback can bring. An example of that is go back to Alex Smith, Greg Roman, who also called for Colin Kaepernick in that transition. Guess where he is now? He's in Baltimore, right? And who does he have? That guy named Lamar Jackson. I think everyone knows him by now. The point is that you don't have to just dumb an offense down for these athletic quarterbacks. Instead, allow the athletic quarterback to bring their mayhem to the classic Shana clan, basically. And that's what he's got to do.
But I think what's happening here is that in true Kyle fashion, he decided probably before they drafted Lance that Lance wasn't going to be ready to play this year. Because Kyle can see the future. He understands what Lance is. He understands what it takes to learn his offense. And Lance just wasn't going to be ready this year. And that's just the way it is. And Kyle doesn't really look at the facts and change his mind very often. He usually wants to prove himself right. See, I told you. I was right. I told you that this was what it was. So he never really gave him a chance, didn't give him the reps in preseason, in training camp. And when he finally got a start because Jimmy got hurt, it was like, all right, man, well, run a quarterback power and quarterback counter and don't get hurt, but you're going to run the ball 16 times and play like a running back, essentially, because I'm not going to let you play quarterback until you're ready, which is, I decided in April is going to be in 2022 at the earliest. That's what happened. I mean, he just doesn't adjust with facts. He won't look at stuff and be like, you know what? I was wrong in April. I'm going to change my mind. It's not how he works.
All right, let me ask you a hot question then. What is your take on the lack of kind of throwing Trey Lance to the wolves? Is that how you manage your franchise quarterback? Just let him take
Absolutely
hit
freaking
hit?
not. Nope.
What is with that?
Well, it's been reported that his first choice was not Trey Lance. So if he's having an attitude about it, he said, okay, this is the quarterback you want me to have. Well, this is how I have to use him. And if he gets hurt, well, I'm sorry, but I've made these objections privately in the draft war room, and you overruled me. You knew better. I mean, these are all things a coach can say, right? And if you think I'm using him directly, you come down here and coach. Then you do it, Jed, John. You do it.
Look at this though. Is there's no room for attitude or ego when it comes to business, war, athletics, whatever. When you get the cards dealt to you, you just have to play the best hand.
It's
that
real
you can.
clear that this is what he thinks he's ready to do. This and only this. Play action, apparently not. Under center stuff, apparently not. Even though this is what he did in college, but he can't do it here. I just feel like Kyle's wrong, and he's often wrong. And if he would just stop trying to predict the future and just let things play out and react to the evidence, he'd do such a better job than what he does. He always is like, making a prediction April and then sticking with it. You don't have to be right. You don't have to predict the future. Anyway, speaking of predicting the future, and Kyle, is he the future of this team? Before we answer, Disciple of Pentagon says Shanahan Niners, when down 7 points or more at half, are 0-19. When they're down between 6 points or tied at half, 7-14. And when winning at halftime, they're 24-5. Just a little backdrop.
Great
interesting. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. Is he the future of this team?
Kyle Shanahan. I said this while ago, back I think when we were talking about the draft, and I said that he inhibits us in ways where his attitude, his ego seem to come into it. I don't know how you doghouse people like Ayuk, but the terror is who would replace him. And I spent some time this week trying to find people. I did not yet. I looked in college. I looked around the NFL. I'm not sure who would be right now, who is available being the key thing, who would be better than him. But there's an inhibition to the direction of the 49ers here. Who doesn't play a draft pick that's number 3 overall? And when the opportunity presents itself, who does not play them? Shanahan needs to show that he is all in with the team that has been given him. With the way the draft was made, he needs to show that he will play the cards he's been dealt and not hold on to things in the past, in this case, Jimmy Garropolo. If he continues to do that, then absolutely not. Jed York has to realize he is at an impasse with a coach who will not follow the game plan. It does not matter how brilliant he is. It does not matter how bad the situation would be on the job market for us. But the fact of the matter is, if he will not play with the cards that are dealt to him, he will have to go. So is he the future of the team? I'm going to wait. Why don't you ask me that after 3 or 4 more games? That's when I will be concrete in my decision with him. I still think that Shanahan has the capacity to be a brilliant play caller, but as something that Jesse pointed out, how brilliant is it when you look at the points per game that he averages? Remember that statistic he posted on Twitter?
Yeah.
That was insane. That made Shanahan look pedestrian.
He's been an OC since 2008. 7 or 8, and he's had an offense that ranked top half of the league, 16 or above, in scoring 4 times, and this year he's currently ranked 15th. So this could be 5, or it could not. 4 out of about 12 or 13. So basically every 3rd year he's good.
Yes, I was talking to one of my friends who's a football coach locally. He's a Ravens fan as well. And he said, what happened? We were talking about Shanahan, and he said, how good a play caller can you be when you rank that low?
He always has an excuse.
And you know what he asked me? Don't you have
injury.
George Kittle? He asked me, don't you have people like George Kittle? And he's like, we don't have people like George Kittle. So the thing is that we have the weapons for Shanahan to hang 35 points a game, and we're not. So, like I said, in the next 3 or 4 games, we will know. We will all know. But for now, it does not look good, no.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I would do.
Where does John Lynch fit into this? Is he going to sync with Shanahan, or will he be a right thing? I think he syncs. And I'll be honest with you, I don't particularly like that. The one thing I have against him, How did defensive back not draft good defensive backs?
Yep.
And I mean, Lenoir is a good bargain bin draft pick, essentially. But when you look at Emery Thomas, okay, maybe it's a project, that's fine. But the first round is just like they abort when it comes to the idea of even drafting a defensive back. So this has to be the last year of these two. The next year, it has to be the last year. This is year 5.
Yeah. If they miss the playoffs, here's what has to happen. One of them has to get fired.
Yes.
If they miss the playoffs, one of them has to get fired. And if I were Jed, what I would do is I personally, Jed, me being Jed, I would fire John Lynch first.
Me too.
Lynch has to go. And it's because if they do miss the playoffs, roster construction will be a big freaking reason why. A lot of people injured, right? Well, that's on you. Year 5. I don't trust the way you guys are doing it, putting together a team in year 6. By year 5, you should have had something good and sustainable, and you don't. So you have to be the fall guy, John. Okay. I would hire a very respected, I don't know who yet, but a respected number 2 personnel guy from some good organization, make him a general manager here. And then that person would have the decision to keep Kyle Shanahan or trade him. And, Kyle Shanahan might make the decision easy by objecting to the whole thing. Then in that case, he can say, I don't want to be here. I don't work with that guy. Okay, fine. We'll trade you. If he does want to work with the guy and the guy wants to work with Kyle, fine. I'll let that go. But that's his decision at that point. That's Kyle's boss.
The other thing that has to happen with a new general manager is more roster autonomy. I think that Kyle Shanahan needs to be relegated into the capacity of what he's good at, and that's
what I'm saying. Absolutely. Yes.
In other words, he needs to be an HC OC. That's
freaking
what he has
coach
to
the team, dude. He'll ask you for some input here and there, but coach the team because you think you know it. Let's not even talk about quarterback, wide receiver. Played the position, you coach the position, you draft it all the time. You never get it right, with the exception of Debo, Pettis, Richie James, Jalen Hurd, Brandon Ayuk. You never like the wide receivers you draft. So we're gonna let someone else do this now.
And that's the thing is Jed York has to say, look, I know you have the stuff. I know you can do this, but it's no longer your decision. I'm going to give you players. Win me football games. This is your last year.
When he was having success on the Falcons, he didn't have personnel control.
That's the point. That's why I said he needs to be an HCOC because he needs to be back to doing what he does. And that's not player management. It's play calling. It's basically choosing what plays to call. And oh, by the way, you can wear your little trucker hats and you can be the head coach.
I'm sure, who was it, Thomas Dimitroff, whoever it was, who was the GM in 2016 in Atlanta, I bet he asked Kyle Shanahan and Bobby Turner and some of those coaches for input and took it here and there. But he had his own agenda, and I'm sure that's what the Rams do, Les Snead and Sean McVay. I think Kyle just has way too much power, and you need to take it away. And if he objects, then you got to go. If not, if he wants to work with a strong general manager who's good at his job and can actually draft and not give away all your picks for people like D Ford, then okay, then you might be able to stay. Maybe.
I love Bobby Turner. I really do. One of the guys who interviewed for John Lynch's job, and I thought was the forerunner, was Louis Riddick. Remember him?
Yeah. I would go with someone maybe that's like not an announcer. I know he's been in front offices, but like it's been a while. How about someone who's kicking butt right now in an organization who's kicking butt right now? Unless, look, bring Louis in for an interview. But I mean, I think there's probably some people who are a little bit more current. Because the thing, Louis is a great announcer. It's so much easier than. Why do you want to go into a business where you could get fired in 3 years because you didn't get the right quarterback? Like, just be an announcer.
That's the thing. I know he wants to. I don't think it was a token interview from his perspective. He wanted the job, and the thing is, he's so politically minded. He's shown no bitterness to not getting it. He stays on top of things. He's well connected. I mean, I'm curious as to how John Lynch got the job over him. That's the thing. A football player who never did this before, no experience doing this kind of thing. He was an announcer. So, hey.
I'm just saying, if one announcer fails, you might try
John Gruden can get a job in the NFL. Louis Riddick should be running the NFL.
I know.
That's what I think.
Hey. Interview him. Jed, find the best and the brightest, please, because it's not John. John was brought in because Kyle wanted power. And he didn't want to work with people who actually are, have their own opinion.
And maybe that's the issue. Maybe Kyle Shanahan is not so big a problem if he has an alpha dog in the house. because he's not an alpha dog. He's a brilliant mad scientist. You know,
But he
go
wants
split
to
the
be an
atom,
alpha
Kyle
dog.
Shanahan. Go equate
I think
things.
he wants to
But
be
let
an alpha
someone
dog.
with the brazen alpha energy of a manager, leader style man do the rest. Take the pressure off him and take the power away.
All right, that's enough of Kyle. Let's talk about someone who's good at their job. D'Amico Ryans. I don't know why, but I had really low expectations for him. I think it's partially because I thought Robert Saleh was not really good the first 2 years. I was not impressed until year 3 for Robert Saleh. And I felt if it took him that long, it's going to take Ryans at least that long. Anyway, I sort of discounted the fact that Ryans has been here every step of the way with Saleh, learning all the lessons Saleh's been learning, watching Saleh learn on the job. And I guess I had no idea that he's really smart too. And he can make adjustments too. And now he's got this defense not only picking up where it left off, but like improving in certain ways. Like all of a sudden,
with no
they can
secondary.
contain the mobile quarterbacks. Like, wow.
Was it DJ Jones that blew up Kyler Murray right down the middle? Was that him?
All of a sudden, Eric Armstead's like doing his job correctly. I'm like,
right.
Oh, this guy looks like he might be a head coach pretty fast. You know, kind of like Brandon Staley was one and done. I don't know. This guy looks good.
3 years, he's a head coach.
3
years, he's a head
Could
coach.
Be less. Yeah. I mean, look at him. Look at his resume. Stud football player, stud position coach, instant success as coordinator. I mean, he's on the Mike Vrabel path right now. Right?
Absolutely.
Killing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we first talked about him, I had medium expectations of him because of the seamless transition, if you remember, from Saleh to him. I felt he stood a chance of doing the job. I thought he would bring more pressure, more heat. He has done that. After the first few games of the season, the first 3 games kind of slowed down on him, and we both said it. We have to see how he adapts, and he's done that. Very impressed with him. He's doing it with no secondary, and I am going to put Tart and Ward's name there. I am not impressed with the 2 of them. I will say that. I was. How many tackles? I think I counted 3 missed tackles by Tart.
Yeah.
How many did they credit for him? He missed easily 2. Two in the flat.
Okay.
Ward always ends up on his backside when he tries to make a tackle. It requires other men on his team to knock a running back down. He stood there. I think was it Connor was running the ball up the left side, and he stood there with his arms around his waist, pulling, and going forward. Yeah. First off, that's not sound tackling. Secondly, Ward, get in the gym. I've been a Ward fan for years. This is the worst form I have ever seen him in. Not a fan of him anymore. I don't like his lack of effort.
Decisions out there.
His coverage is soft. And Ward, you might want to not talk trash when going up against someone like DeAndre Hopkins and then get embarrassed on national TV. Oh, what a low point in your career.
Well, here's something I want to say real quick. D'Amico's doing a great job, and this defense is really exceeding expectations. But there's one glaring weakness on this defense. They don't force turnovers. 2 so far. And you can be a really solid defense, but you're not going to shut down an offense for 11 drives. Like
even if you do master of not generating turnovers. And that it
that's what I'm saying.
Down.
Like Ward
they
doesn't
have nothing in the back end. Here's the thing. Stop looking for solid play from Tart and Ward. You might get it, but you will not get playmaker back there. You have nothing behind Warner. This is why Warner looks soft sometimes, is because he knows he's got nothing behind him. He can't play free. He has to play with a degree of paranoia where he's not a thumper anymore. If Warner's just kind of hanging on to people and bringing them down, he's not playing with the same speed because of the secondary play. Our secondary is abysmal.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not a good secondary, and it really reminds me of 2018. I don't know if you remember, but in 2018, the Niners forced 7 turnovers. It was league low, and it was something they had talked about all freaking year and off season. And when they actually started forcing turnovers in 2019, people were like, "Oh, wow, what are you doing differently?" Well, maybe your players are just better. Anyway, I don't think it's really a D'Amico thing. I think it's a roster construction thing.
Where D'Amico, he will never do it because he's not like Shanahan. He could come out and say, "Well, my guys aren't executing," and that would actually be the truth. So, but
I think you don't have the guys who can execute.
And the other thing that, again, back to playing Trey Lance, and reeling in the salary cap by getting rid of Jimmy Garropolo, where do we have any draft investment at corner, nickel, strong safety, or free safety? Nothing.
That's why you got to get a new general manager
for the future in the secondary.
Right.
Other teams out there, you go into a draft and you say, okay, we have to get a corner. Okay, here's what the Niners are going to say next year. We need a center, a right guard, a corner, possibly a nickel if they won't play Lenoir. I don't know why they won't. We need a strong and a free safety.
No first round pick either.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson's on injured reserve. He's going to miss at least
I don't like seeing that. Yeah.
He's going to miss at least the next 3 weeks. He's got a messed up finger.
It came down. Yep.
Where does this put the 49ers in the NFC West right now?
Proudly at the bottom above the Seahawks with no Russell Wilson. What a great place to be. We are better. I want to say this for the record. We are better than the Seahawks without Russell Wilson.
The Geno Smith Seahawks? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. No, I'm fired up. We're better than the Seahawks. No, seriously.
They are. That Seahawks team is falling apart. I don't know if Russell Wilson's going to be on that team next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pete Carroll will be on that team next year.
Yeah, for me, I think the NFL loses something with Russell Wilson, but we're not here to analyze the Seahawks, so I won't lament him too much, but I like him. I like seeing him play.
We haven't seen the Niners face the Rams yet, and they've beaten the Rams the last 4 times, but I think
that's the only thing I'm holding on to is that the Niners were this close to beating the Cardinals, and if Shanahan had called a better plan, then they would have. And the Rams, the thing that Shanahan seems to have against the Rams is McVay. He just seems to know him. He's got his number. Even when the Niners were just not even the best version of themselves, they just seem to own McVay. But that was Jared Goff.
It was. And I was saying that was Robert Saleh. Well, maybe D'Amico's ready for it because he was there. He should know. I'm not going to discount D'Amico at all.
Some good games out of the Rams. I strongly feel we can take one. But it's likely we will lose both, and they will be excellent games where we will be sitting here saying, again, if the coaches had gotten out of their way. But the bottom line is that's a really good team. I think the 49ers can hang in with them, but I just don't see how they're going to beat them unless it's just brilliant defense. But the Rams' defense is also good. The thing is, can they contain Trey Lance? If Trey Lance is playing, I will revisit this power ranking. But with Jimmy Garropolo playing, we will plunder. We will sink. Plummet.
Here's the thing. After the bye week, here's the stretch of games. They got Indy and Chicago. Those are 2 games the Niners will be favored to win and should win. But then after that, look at this 5-game stretch. At home against the Cardinals, November 7th. November 15th, Monday night, at home against the Rams. Then on a short week, they fly across the country and play a 10 o'clock game against Jacksonville. They should win, but it'll be taxing. Then they come home, play a Sunday afternoon game against Minnesota. That's a solid team. And then finally, they go on December 5th. They fly up to Seattle, play the Seahawks. I mean, that's going to decide their season right there. If they play well in that stretch, they'll be okay. But they could certainly go 1-4 in that stretch, and then they'll be 5-8. So
this is what I say: the Indianapolis game, they shouldn't have to win. The Jacksonville game, they're the beast in the East. The San Francisco 49ers still have the East number, and with Trey Lance under center, I think it happens. I think that's 2 right there. Can take those. They have to and should win the Cardinals game if they play the same way they did against the Cardinals in Arizona, minus this reckless 4th down approach. So I'm not one of those people that likes to say, well, if we had done this and that, we would have won. But that's the fact is the 4th downs annihilated the 49ers. If they were to call a classic Shanahan game, they would have won that game. Now they're going to come home. There's a good chance they could win that game.
Real quick. Also, the thing with the Arizona thing and the 4th downs, I understand Shanahan doing it the first couple of times and anticipating. It's like that's the number 1 offense in the league, man. I gotta sort of anticipate that this is going to be a high-scoring game. But by the 3rd quarter, you can see it wasn't that. And there's no reason to keep doing it. Like, trust your defense. You've seen him play well all game.
Here's the thing, and this is something that we talked about before. I am a strong believer that this is the lack of adaptability. He's not flexible-minded. Again, he's a manager, not a leader. Yeah. he's not a tactical kind of guy. What he does, I think he comes up with 50 contingencies in his brain before the game, and he's the best in the NFL at that, at thinking this, and this. But if
this
that does
happens,
not
I'll
happen,
do this. Yeah, I'm trying
if
to
it
plan
does not
ahead.
happen,
Yeah.
and he has to go off script, then he does not know how to organically adapt in a game. He does not adapt. He has his game plan, and if everything rolls the way he wants it to, he will punch you in the throat. But if something happens where, oh, it's a low-scoring defensive game, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I was going to do. That's Kyle Shanahan, and that has to. I'm not going to say he has to grow. He's not that young anymore, and he's been coaching for so long that he should know better.
He should know better.
That's the thing, as I think he's not a good contingency guy. He has plans, and if you do what he wants you to do, he'll beat you, or he will make it competitive. But he does not know how to adapt.
All right, let's talk about something positive. The Niners have an injury-prone roster with a lot of injured players. Like George Kittle, for example, on IR. That sucks. They really need him, but he's going to be out a little bit. Who is the one player at this point that they cannot – basically, if this guy were to get hurt for 3 games, the Niners would go 0-3, in your opinion? Or 1-2? So is there someone with that kind of impact on the team right now in terms of what he gives you and the depth behind him?
I'm going to pick a couple of players. Let me pick one from both sides of the ball here. Start with the defense. I'm going to have to go with Fred Warner.
Ooh.
If he gets injured at an already thin linebacking core, there goes a defensive captain, and Warner doesn't need to make a play to necessarily affect the play. He is the defensive captain, and it was really cool to watch his brain go up against Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football, where Rodgers was calling audibles, and Warner saw what it was, and he was calling the same. He lost, by the way. Aaron Rodgers is smarter than him. He's more experienced, but it was cool because he hung in there with him. The young guy doing his best against the old warhorse. You lose that, you lose direction, leadership on your team. So that's my defensive.
Good answer. I hadn't thought of that. Good answer. Yeah.
The other thing is, too, we have no secondary. He is our secondary in a way. He's basically middle of the field secondary. He's like a roaming safety at this point as far as ball control and security goes. So you don't just lose your tackling machine, you lose more. So there's that. On the offensive side of the ball, we have to go with what the number one offensive target has been. How close with these games? I know this is your pick, so I'm going to leave it to you to say. But we're going to talk about how many yards we would lose if your pick was to be taken off the field. So I'm going to leave that one to you. I'm going to pick a second one, okay?
Sure.
I'm going to pick a second one, and I'm actually going to go with Kyle Juszczyk.
Okay.
And the reason for that is he's like the last line of defense for this poor Trey Lance who's running around for his life in this kamikaze offense, essentially. He is being put in positions in which he's expected on his honor and bravado to go out there and take hits. Juszczyk and Trent Williams just dominates people. That's why I watched the game. Like, if it was up to me, I would only watch defense. But I watched the 49ers offense because these two men are men among men. And if you lose Juszczyk, everything goes on Trent Williams. He can't see what's going on behind him. Juszczyk is the linchpin of the whole 49ers offense, I fear. He springs the quarterback if they want to do something with him. He defends the quarterback. He actually can run. When the play calling is good, he's a good running back. He is a good running back. He demonstrated that a couple of weeks ago, the Green Bay game, I believe. But also, it's the running game. You think Kittle is a great blocker. He's a Pro Bowl blocker. How often do you have a double Kittle whammy effect and Trent Williams going the same direction on a run? I could go get a team of Navy SEALs, and they would struggle to get to the running back through those 3 guys. It would take men like that to run them over, and even then, that's where Kyle Juszczyk to me is the last trump card that Kyle Shanahan has. I think he relies on this guy more than I think a lot of 49ers fans know how important he is, but that's my pick. You have a different one, and you can't argue with it because how many yards does he have? Go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of people would say Trent Williams, though, and I could see that. But to me, the reason I'm not going to say Trent Williams, I'm not saying he's not great, but the offensive line isn't good. And I've always felt like there's only so much one left tackle can do if the other 4 guys are subpar, which is the Niners situation right now. So if they lost Trent Williams, guess what? They'd still have a bad offensive line. Like, Yeah, Jalen Moore would be a step down, but even with him on the field, Trent, there's issues there. There's issues all over the offensive line. So to me, the guy who's really propping up the offense right now, like if this guy weren't here, I think they'd have an offense. It's Debo. I don't know what their offense would be if it weren't for Debo. He's everything. George Kittle's gone. Ayuk is in the doghouse. Sanu is nothing. Benjamin is nothing. Dwelly never gets the ball. Juszczyk is getting used more than ever, which is cool. But still, he can't exactly move the ball the way Debo. I mean, he's playing like Jerry Rice this year. He's everything on this offense. And if he were to get hurt, I think they would be like one of the worst offenses in the league.
By overutilizing Debo, do you not feel that they are not creating plays for Ayuk and Sherfield and Dwelly?
Yes.
So in a way, do you remember when back in the long time ago when Terrell Owens came up and everything like that, the most novel idea happened. Getting rid of a productive Jerry Rice made the team better. That's a horrible thing to say as a 49ers fan, but it's true, right? So I'm not saying that Debo Samuel is not the most important, but I think Kyle Shanahan is overusing him. And I think the misdirection of his utility players, his other players, his gadget players is not being featured, and it's becoming a Debo-centric offense. And Debo is a beast, and he's a baller. And yes, if we get rid of him, we would stink. But at the same time, if we tune him back to say, a bad game for him now seems to be about 75 yards, 100 yards a game. If we dial him back a little bit and get just
maybe
more
someone else,
like Ayuk, perhaps.
Yeah.
Then I think the offense would be better. And the other thing is, how long can Debo last being pounded and being expected to run every route and just not get the breaks that he deserves? And the thing is, I don't understand where people like Trent Sherfield are. I don't understand where Brandon Ayuk is. And I'm sorry, but I feel like Ayuk in that game, when he got the ball, he earned his reps.
Yeah.
He made some good catches.
I thought so too. I want to stick with Debo, though. He's in his third year. After 3 years, the 49ers gave George Kittle an extension. And then after 3 years, they gave Fred Warner an extension. Rather than have them play out a lame duck fourth year. It's one thing with first-round picks. You can do that because you pick up the fifth-year option. But if you're not a first-round pick, you're a free agent after that fourth year. And if you're a really good player, the Niners, their precedent is we reward you after year 3. Is Debo on track to get that reward?
This year,
should he be?
He should. He should be on track. He deserves that. Can he stay healthy? That's the thing. He's a very physical player. I think he's a lot tougher than George Kittle. George Kittle's a tough guy. Don't get me wrong, but he just seems to get bruised every time he goes out there. It's something. He's dealing with something. Debo Samuel's had a little bit of that, but that's going to be, if he can stay healthy, he's going to break the bank. I think the Niners are going to be in a position, will lead us into another question you will have for me, but I think it's going to put them in the position of deciding which offensive weapon they want. Debo Samuel is a wide receiver that we need. He's a gadget player as well. He does some great good work in the backfield that this offense led by Shanahan will need to rely on. Kittle's lack of availability is leading to no ability. And so that brings us to the next thing, if you want to lead into that. But I think Debo is the one we have to keep at this point. But only if he can prove he is healthy for a continuous year. I don't mind if he misses a game. This is football. But at the same time, he has to be healthy. No more of this broken platoon formula that the 49ers are just trying to scrape by with injured players.
I'm going to be more conservative here. I would not resign Debo, even if he has an injury-less season. He's in a contract year. He's playing like it. I respect it. But he has his history, and he has his playing style too. I feel like this is Kittle redux. Kittle, you can see this coming with Kittle. Just the way he plays, his body, can't do it for too long. And Debo's either going to stop playing this way, which won't be good, or his body will break down, or he'll be just the bionic man. And I'm not banking on that. So I gotta be cynical here and conservative and feel like, look, if Debo can put together an all-pro year, thank you. I'm going to trade you for a first-round pick at the end of it. I'm sorry, it's horrible to say, right?
then yes, and I can validate that. But also, you could bundle someone else up and trade him, and that's Kittle. And the reason for that
we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but
yes.
back to Debo. Then, if that's your plan, is to milk him for his All-Pro year, then yes, you can trade him. I would first off trade him out of this division and conference if you can
for first round pick.
For a first rounder, yeah.
Because here's the thing. Here's one more thing.
How you're going to have to that first rounder has to go to corner.
Right. Well, hold on. One more thing.
And then Ayuk has to assume
Bosa's up for an extension this offseason too.
Bosa, you say? Yes.
Bosa's up for an extension this offseason too, and he's going to be making Jimmy Garropolo money. So I don't even know if they can afford Deebo Samuel if they want to keep him. That's
true. Again, that's the problem with keeping Jimmy Garropolo and not having a rookie on his contract. That's how the Chiefs, now they finally broke the bank on Mahomes, but they had the benefit of playing him when he was young. The Ravens are going to come into a position with the same thing with Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be on his rookie contract anymore. So the Niners are going to have to reset the quarterback clock to make what you're talking about happen. Get that first rounder back that they absolutely have to put it at corner. But then people like Ayuk have got to be worth their salt.
The Niners are clearly trying to figure out ways to get first round picks back. Obviously, they don't have them the next 2 years. And I think their first plan was Jimmy's going to have a 2019 year. And we're okay. Well, that's not looking too likely now. He's been hurt already. So who else? I mean, it seems to me that you could trade Kyle, but they're not there yet. Trade Debo, or you could trade George Kittle. Now, I don't even know what George Kittle's worth anymore. Last year was a throwaway year, and this year hasn't been any better. Should the 49ers trade George Kittle? A, and B, what's he worth at this point?
Yes, and I love George Kittle. He's one of my favorite players, but yes. And the reason for that is if I look back at the 49ers I grew up with, Ross Dwelly reminds me of someone, and that is part of my equation. Ross Dwelly reminds me of Brett Jones. Humble, solid, mean, massively strong, means nobody has no good intentions for the defense. He's like a linebacker mentality playing tight end. Excellent hands. He's not the blocker that Kittle is, but he's not a bad blocker. Mm-hmm. He's not the yak kind of guy that Kittle is, but he's not easy to tackle. He's a solid, inexpensive, low draft capital player that a lot of teams would be happy to get in their draft. Someone like Ross Dwelly. I think the team can win with Ross Dwelly and Kyle Juszczyk. By getting rid of Kittle, if you can get a first rounder for him, it can go somewhere else. So Kittle is this dynamo, this bombshell of a player who's not playing, and that happens a lot. And we here's the thing: this team is all about having injured players on the bench, and they cannot have that as their starting core. That's just not going to work. So they are in a position where I feel the decision has actually already been made. Whether they have made it is another debate, but they have to do this.
He's 28. All right. He just turned 28. Last year, he was 27. He missed 8 games. This year, he's going to miss his second. I mean, he's going to miss at least 3 games. I just think that he needs to go to a team that doesn't have this injury issue. You go be the one player on a team that's a massive injury question. On this team, they need guys who are durable, and you're not one of them. And he's too expensive to be missing games. They give him $16 million a year. I mean, $1 million a game, and he's going to miss a few of them a season because he's not a wide receiver. He plays a very high impact, high violence position, and his body seems to be breaking down. Got to trade him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just been a long time since we've seen him do what Kittle can do. It really has. I mean, honestly, I think the best Kittle we ever saw was pre-Garoppolo.
That's true.
So
true. Honestly, his best season was 2018. Mullins, his best season was 2018. Anyway, what can you get for George?
I don't think they can get a first rounder for him. Oof. I think it's a second rounder. I think so.
Because he's expensive and he misses time.
If they can bundle and trade back up into the first round, that would be good because a couple of second rounders, it depends on who they trade with those as far as where that draft pick falls and how valuable it would really be. But I think they should trade him for a second rounder to a really bad team.
Yeah.
And that way it will at least be higher up in the draft to where they might be able to trade into the back end of the first round. With a team like, say, the Patriots or something like that, or something. But just enough that they can climb the ladder. But around, first rounder pick 30 is not what I'm talking about. It needs to be middle of the first round that they get back into so they can get the corner potentially that they want.
So Niner fans, if you're trying to figure out ways to get first round picks next year, I don't think Jimmy's going to have to get traded this offseason. I'm not.
Jimmy's a fifth
that'll
round.
That'll be for like a 6th round pick, something like that.
Yeah, I 5th, 6th round,
At
absolutely.
best. But then if you want a first, the options here are your head coach, your tight end, your number 1 wide receiver, or Bosa. And there's a lot of season left to play, but it doesn't look like the Niners. Honestly, they need to be skeptical with Bosa too. For the same reason, everything I said about Deebo Samuel applies to Bosa. He's healthy this year. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't know. They got some really tough questions here. They got to figure out who are the people we can build around for 10 years. Like Fred Warner's one of those guys. He's available all the time. Buckner was one of those guys. You let him go. Is Bosa one of those guys? Is Deebo one of those guys? Kittle isn't. But you don't really know with Deebo and Bosa, and I think the fact that there's a question means that you should probably err on the side of caution, but I can't make that decision for you. Kittle, though, I think that's pretty cut and dry.
Yes, I do as well. And again, we don't need what he is at his position. If we have a decent offensive line, I would rather get rid of Kittle and have a Pro Bowl right guard or right tackle or something like that.
Here's another thing. Quarterback's going to be Trey Lance going forward. Right now, Trey Lance as a passer is the exact opposite of Jimmy. Jimmy throws changeups over the middle. Lance throws fastballs outside. Okay? He doesn't really want to throw over the middle because he knows he misses high, and he's very good at not turning the ball over. That's who he's been forever. And he's just much more comfortable throwing to the outside because he has a cannon, and those misses are incomplete passes. George isn't going to get as many targets with Trey for a while. He's going to be throwing to wide receivers, running comebacks and outs and goes. That's good. His passing chart is going to look like the exact opposite of Jimmy's, and that's going to affect George. And so paying a tight end wide receiver money may not make sense when you really need wide receivers with this quarterback.
I think that's why Kyle Shanahan played Travis Benjamin, was to stretch the field vertically down the sideline, and it didn't happen. Right. But he should have done that with the guy he has chemistry with, and that's
Sherfield. Anyway, we're going to take a few questions, and then we're going to finish up for the day.
Also, I wanted to throw in real quick. I don't think we should read too far into the injury with Trey Lance, because a minor sprain you will not usually feel. And when it happens, and the reason it flared up at night is because a lack of mobility and the heat of sleeping is what causes the inflammation to grate, and it seizes. And that's just what the body does to defend itself. I've had a bad knee sprain once.
Less than a 2-hour flight?
None of that helped. But sleep, you would be in so much pain when you wake up with a sprain. I'm sure someone here, many of us, you played baseball. That's a very common thing to have in baseball, and the infield is a knee sprain. So that's all that happened there. But it's something they should not mess around with, and it really should be 2 weeks missed.
You think so?
As far as if safety goes, yeah. I don't want Lance back out there until he's healthy. And if Jimmy Garropolo is limping into this game, we'll be lucky if we can get a 4th or 5th rounder for him. I don't want to see Lance thrown to the Wolves. Throw Garropolo to the Wolves.
How about Sudfeld?
Here's the thing. Garropolo will give you nothing in draft return if he doesn't play. So we need as much play time from him as we can get without it sabotaging Lance. This could be the last game Garropolo should be allowed to play. You see my points?
Yeah.
Because after this, when Lance is healthy, you got to cruise with him, because this year is lost, although we can still get in the playoffs.
I do.
And it's about next year. And it's about trading one of our beloved players. I hate doing this, but you have to get him the defense or him another weapon. So this is about Garropolo. Just get a little bit more tape on him. Sudfeld, there's nothing to gain by putting Sudfeld out there. 0 to gain. But I don't think that Lance should play the Indianapolis game if he's not, 1,000% healthy. I don't mean I'm feeling pretty good. I mean an orthopedic surgeon comes out and says, you are good. You are as good as the day you were born. If that's not the case, put Garropolo out there. Whether he's if he's 90%, I don't want Garoppolo to get killed or something like that. But at this point, I have been waiting since 1995 for something to give as a 49ers fan. I don't care about Garoppolo as much as I care about this team.
Okay, makes sense. And let him play one more time. Maybe try to pump up his value against a bad team before the trade deadline.
If he gets 40 points in the next game, then someone will sign him. They will get a 5th rounder for him. If he was to play out the rest of the year, he would elevate himself to a 3rd rounder. That's it. We're not getting a 1st rounder. But if he plays the rest of the year, Lance doesn't, then we will be back in this discussion next year talking about Trey Lance development, and we can't do that.
All right, we're going to take some questions. What you talking about, Willis says, if Bananahan did do the Jimmy Gimmies for Trey, you think he'd overthrow? Did you see overthrown passes in practice on easy passes, Grant? Dude, Jimmy Gimmies are the shovel passes. It's like jet sweeps where you're actually just – he can do that. And then as far as the screens go, he called a few of those. Lance hit him. There was the one that was behind Debo that Debo dropped that Debo should have caught, frankly. But he was actually pretty good on the screens. The guy who can't throw screens is Zach Wilson in New York. I don't know if you saw that, but he was bouncing him when he was in London. Oh,
my father watched that game and he called me in. Actually, I was with him on that day and he said, "Is this the guy that people wanted us to draft?" And I was like,
right.
Thank the goddess we did not draft him.
Here's what I think of Zach Wilson. Not particularly athletic. I mean, he's college athletic. He's Johnny Manziel athletic. And then he's totally careless. As opposed to Trey Lance, who's NFL athletic and actually quite conservative with the football. Like he cares.
I like seeing that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right. The short and underneath stuff, Lance is not bad at. It's just over the middle deep. And that's something that we got with him. And we're going to have to deal with it, and it's going to happen. Yeah. But one turnover should not decide a Trey Lance-led 49ers squad. It won't.
No. Gammon says, Sybilla, I admire your confidence and courage. Keep it up. Through 5 weeks, Niners are 2-3. Next 5 opponents are Colts, Bears, Cards, Rams, Jags. What are your win-loss be over that span and why?
First off, Gammon, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's very sweet of you to say, and I love spending time with you guys and with Grant, so it's my pleasure. So the Colts game's a win. Bears is a win. Cards lost. Rams lost. Jaguars win. Actually 3-2, but with the potential to go 2-3 because of the East Coast flight.
True. Yeah, it should be 2. It should be 3-2. Problem is the next 2 games after that are Minnesota at home, Seattle on the road. Those gets tough. But I mean, after that,
you know what is possible here? A 4-1 record. There is a possibility because of the way Shanahan owns the Rams.
Sure.
If this was a healthy team, I would say with confidence and no hubris, 5-0. But we are not that.
Timothy says, is Kyle a danger to the quarterbacks he don't want? I think he's a danger to any quarterback he coaches because all I know is every single one he's had on the Niners has gotten hurt at least once. Every one. So I think he's a danger to quarterbacks in general. And that's why when he made that little joke over the conference call on Monday, like, hey, Jimmy's going to have some company in the rehab room, like, Kyle, it's not funny.
That's not funny.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
But you know, it's pretty cool. I think Jesse said it as well. That allows him at the facility, which is kind of cool.
It does.
Just to add to that question, any leader who does not want someone on her, their, or his force, his team, is a danger to that person. As a leader, you have a responsibility to use in a constructive capacity and to bolster the confidence. I hate when people say that you have to be a locker room dad or you have to be tough to football players. The game is tough enough on itself.
Thank you.
Your job is not to berate. It's not to break down. It is to build up. It is to bolster. It is to juice the lemon for every drop that it has. And that is not something he is prepared to do. And the Ayuk situation, Ayuk's going to need a sports psychologist at the end of this season. And if not, he's a narcissist because I don't know how you can get through this blow to your confidence. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, he should be asking for a trade
Ayuk
right now. If I were his agent, I'd be asking for a trade.
Absolutely. You know, I would love to go to Tom Brady if I was him.
Please.
But it's not going to happen. They have
my God. Tom Brady is the sports psychologist. Oh, are you unhappy with your current team? Come play with me. My name's Tom.
Exactly. I'll take a pay cut.
Trey says Niners management is terrible. They have to go back to Jimmy because they need to justify the dollar amount. They made a mistake by not trading him. Whew.
Yeah, there's rhetoric in what he said there. This Trey Niners guy, they're absolutely right. That's what Grant and I are afraid of, is that the ego, the need to justify the playing to the media, or just I was right is coming into the equation when it should not.
Wero says Kyle is the problem right now. 3 straight losses.
He's one of the biggest problems, without a doubt. But there are other things. I mean, still, D'Amico Ryans. I would love to see what he could do with a healthy and good secondary. Imagine.
Remaining fair and impartial, how much of the offensive woes is Kyle Shanahan's right-hand man, Mike McDaniel, accountable for? Let me handle this one real quick, and then I'll let you go. This is a little unfair. We don't know if he has more or less responsibility. I want to take this a different way. You can't say that he's more involved. We don't know that. We know for a fact that someone is not involved anymore. Mike LaFleur. No one really thought anything of him. But the last 2 years, there was a run game coordinator, a pass game coordinator. McDaniel was run game. LaFleur was pass game. Now he's the offensive coordinator for the Jets. And the offense isn't as good. So maybe we're seeing the impact of that absence. I don't know.
That's a very good angle. What I'm going to go here is more on the management personnel side of this. As far as McDaniel, we can't know how accountable he is because we don't know how much power he truly has. And the thing is, with some of these coaches out there, whether like a Vic Fangio, for instance, you really think that Vic Fangio does not give the final say to he's the defensive coordinator for his team.
You. Right.
In this case, we have the reciprocal of
he's
that.
He's not delegating the whole thing.
Right. So in the end, this is a Kyle Shanahan offense, not a McDaniel's offense.
He is delegating everything to Mike. That's on Kyle. What are you doing? Stop. Work harder. No, but I think I think we're seeing the impact of losing LaFleur because they replaced him with someone named Bobby Slowick. I don't know, man. Who's that guy? I don't know that guy.
Never heard of him. Actually, I don't know. Yeah. I have to admit, I didn't know his name.
Trey Niner says, can we stop pretending Kyle is a mastermind? What has he proven that is worth being excited about? Can't live off 1 year of him losing a Super Bowl. He's good every 3 years, Trey. Every 3 years, he's the Haley's Comet of coaches in the NFL, which means next year is going to be, let's watch out. Next year is his year.
Yeah, but this year is more like that asteroid film with like Bruce Willis. I mean, that's just not good.
What I don't like about Kyle is it really does feel like a 1 every 3 years thing. And when you're covering those other 2 years, it feels like he's just wasting everyone's time.
Did you notice how frazzled he was in the Cardinals game? I've never seen him get animated with his hands. Did you see that? When the Cardinals scored their touchdown, he just went ballistic on the sideline, and he was like slamming his paper and just doing this with his hands, like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
He's feeling some heat. I still think he's highly intelligent. I think he's a good play designer, but I think some people are underestimating the lack of leadership component. It's not that he's not a mastermind of play calling. It's that he's getting in the way of using the tools he has for his playbook. His playbook is good. It's there. He's not using it because he's not using the right components. That's where he's failing.
This is trivia time. Bo Knows comes through with the best trivia. Bo, good to see you. Name the 2 49ers that are on the top 5 NFL list for all-time yards from scrimmage. I'm watching both of you, so no Google searches allowed. What's that?
It has to be Jerry Rice. He's one of them.
Name the 2 Niners that are on the top 5 NFL list for all-time yards from scrimmage.
Here's my hands.
49ers. This feels like a trick question.
I'm going to go with Jerry Rice. That has to be one.
Of course. This feels like a trick question, though. Was like Randy Moss a 49er? No, it's not Randy Moss.
Okay, so we have to absolve ourselves of that. He can't hit us with that. It has to be like a predominantly 49er.
Like, was O.J. Simpson a 49er? It wasn't these guys, though. It's got to be right. It's not.
What he
top
said
5 NFL list all-time yards.
I mean, Terrell Owens has a lot of yards as well.
Yeah, it's got to be T.O. It can't be.
It's T.O.
It can't be Roger Craig. He's not top 5. It's got to be Owens, right? It's got to be Owens and Rice.
Absolutely.
You said something earlier that I disagree with. That I want to go off on a tangent, though. You said that losing Rice made Owens better. I actually felt that.
No, not Owens. I said the team.
The team. Okay, because I felt like when Rice left, Owens went from Terrell Owens to T.O. And of course, he was a great player, but he was also, I always thought he was, constantly undercutting the quarterback and the head coach. I almost felt like he was a negative impact on his team. And if they had kept Jerry Rice, Rice wouldn't let that happen. Anyway, I thought Rice was a good mentor for T.O.
So you're basically
left.
Yeah, I see your point. So you're arguing that having Jerry there is almost like having Richard Sherman in a way, the Uncle Sherman effect.
T.O. didn't act like that when Jerry was on the team. He did not.
Again, I actually play, like I said, you're right that the leadership aspect.
But that was 20 years ago. We're rewriting history now. But yo, Bo, let us know if we're right.
That's all we have to hang on to. 1995.
Thoughts on the stupid penalties killing them?
Beginning of the episode, we talked about that. It is
They're on defense too, man. This team, not only do they not force turnovers, PIs and holds all day. So many PIs.
The pass interference in the holds on the defense is because they are so thin at secondary. That's
Correct.
why.
They're playing a very aggressive style with guys who aren't that good.
You know, it's funny. Bad corners look so good because they look so physical, because they have to be, because they have no technique.
That's right. Oh, he was right there. Yeah, I mean, he was great. He was mugging him.
And they're always like, oh,
come on.
They're like, you know what they are? They are the soccer players of the NFL. You know?
That's why I wanted to be cornerback. I always saw myself playing corner. Yeah, that's right. Gizmo Maltese says, I'll argue that Jimmy injuries are our main problem. We're 2-0 and up against Packers with 37 seconds left. If Jimmy is healthy, big if, we beat anyone. See, this thinking right here is what has the Niners stuck in 2019 to me. Like, he is 5-6 in his last 11 starts. I think the Jimmy magic is over. But every time it's about to be proven, he gets hurt. And they're like, oh, man. But I think really he gets hurt. He's got hurt 3 times in the last 9 games. He's not a starting quarterback. He's a backup. He's an excellent backup. He's a backup you can win with. But he gets hurt in 3 games, maybe 4.
He's going to be like the next, what's his name, Mike Glennon? Yeah, he's going to be the enemy. Here's the one thing. What Jimmy Garropolo does to the defense is, if I am running as a free safety or if I'm the defensive coordinator, I know his limitations. I'm going to focus on his short passes. I'm going to take away the short sideline away from him, and I'm going to force him to throw deep over the middle. That's something Jimmy Garropolo cannot do well. And that's what people have figured out. So Jimmy Garropolo will always have to be conservative because he has a conservative level of skill. Defense, read him well.
Sorry. I just peeked and looked at Bo's answer. I don't know if you've seen it. Don't look yet. We were wrong. Okay, Rice was correct. It wasn't Owens. I saw the answer. I'm not going to say it, but we're going to have some time. Just think about it. Think about it.
Okay, all right.
It's someone else. It's not Owens. It's not Craig. But it's a big-time Niner who is apparently one of the top 5 in yards from scrimmage all freaking time. Think about it. Anyway.
Okay.
Jeremy says, Sybilla, are you the coolest person in the world? Not until she gets this trivia question right.
There's a lot of cool people out there. I mean, like, if I have that much coolness,
she's top 5. She's definitely top 5. Gammon says, should we?
Top 5 from scrimmage, coolest people. I'll take it.
Only from scrimmage, though. Should we expect to have our paid comments answered at the end of the season instead? Wait until the end of the ended pay? I don't know. It just seems like it's an orderly thing to do all the questions at the end. I'm tinkering around. I'm sorry if you're feeling impatient.
Well, we can do an open mic someday, basically, where we can just take questions or something like that.
Maybe what we should do is, like, every 10 minutes we'll take a little question break where we do like 10 minutes of us, 5 minutes of question, then go back and forth. Because I mean, people asked this like a half hour ago, so maybe that's the way to do it.
Like Vish and Jack Hammer and Rob and those guys, and Jesse. I feel like maybe a question or a question session might not be a bad thing.
It's a good idea. Trade Greenlaw. Let's see where.
No.
He's hurt.
Won't get anything for him. And if there's one issue I have with Fred Warner's style of play, he's not a thumper. Greenlaw brings that, and we cannot. This is the thing. Fred Warner is one of the smartest defensive players I've seen on the 49ers in the time, but he's a bit soft, and he's not that strong. He's always on his backside or his butt. Yeah, I mean, you can run Warner over. His technique will pull you down, but you can run him over.
He's a drag down tackler. Yep.
Exactly.
It's true. Grant, do you think Kyle's intentions were to have a simple game plan before the bye and then flip the switch later so he can be the savior? Kyle, the genius, man. Hopefully, I guess that would be cool. I don't really give him that much credit anymore, but that would be really cool. I would tip my cap to Kyle if that's what he wanted to do. More likely, he's just going to go back to Jimmy.
No, I don't think so. I don't see how losing a close game to a divisional rival
and getting him hurt.
Good strategy.
Yeah.
So no, that was not.
We're going to get Trey Lance hurt just so we can fool some team in 3 weeks.
By the way, I'm just going to say it has to be Frank Gore, right?
It is.
There we go.
It is. It's Frank. Good question, Bo.
Good question. Thank you for the second opportunity.
Kittle hurt by hospital passes past few years. No, that's not true. He broke. Yeah, I mean, it is true, but he broke his foot just running. That wasn't a hospital pass. And then he hurt his calf just running. That wasn't, I mean, just running seems to be getting to George Kittle at this point.
The last injury he took, did you not feel that pass was behind him? And that's what spun him in the way? Is that what he's referring to?
I don't know, but they said that he didn't get hurt from that his injury is the calf injury he had week 1.
Because he got up in pain on that. Like, he looked like this. Did you see his knee?
Yeah, it looked bad.
That's the play. I think, well, Garropolo is really bad at throwing behind players and things. Yeah, he does that to his guys, but that's not the only reason. Yeah, Kittle gets injured on other things because of his physical style of play. He probably injures himself blocking, to be honest with you.
Gammon says, I'm Grant QC. I'm here for my fellow commenters. Yeah, salute. There's a couple more, I think.
By the way, if you guys are wondering, that's why I do it.
Really love the show today. Sybilla is awesome. What about me? No, she is really awesome. She's terrific.
You need to use your cool name, Ziggy.
Iggy.
Okay.
Iggy. Yeah, that's what. Grant sneaks Sybilla in the building to go one-on-one with Kyle. Jed, hire Sybilla as an assistant coach or consultant.
I'll tell you what, I am qualified to be a physical trainer for the 49ers. I would love that. Definitely would. It would be a dream job. It would be cool.
Never ever trade a great.
Hire me, but the Niners would. I would never stop bagging. I'm glad the gloves are off because I hate Chucky. I'm just going to say that for the record. Gruden is an expletive. I hated him for years. And I'm an A's fan. So my fellow Oakland fans out there, what will we have after he's gone? Well, let's see. We won't have bigotry. We won't have sexism. We won't have homophobia. We won't have transphobia. We won't have a losing coach. Oh, okay, cool. Goodbye.
Good luck. David says, never ever trade a great player for a first-round pick, which probably won't pan out. Has Defoe taught us nothing? Okay, the thing about Defoe was he had proven himself to be the Fred Warner type of, not only are you elite, but you play every game. We can count on you to be here. And I'm not sure that Debo is that guy. I'm not saying he's not, but he missed last year. Nick Bosa missed last year. These are not necessarily DeForest Buckner, Fred Warner type guys where there's just like, they check every box, to use a terrible football cliche. They don't. That's why there's a question.
And David, David Velez here, there is a lot of history and science to what he's saying. There's strategy to what he said. If you look at the percentage of first rounders that pan out, it's not as high as you would think. So he's basically saying if we have a proven player, why would we give it up for an unproven player? Definitely get that. But we're also considering the salary cap. Who else we can retain with that trade? What area of need we can address with that trade? How good is this 49ers team with Debo if we go into next year with no corners that are healthy? I want Verrett to be here next year, but not as our main guy. As in, hey, if he's here, great. We'll have the best cornerback system in football. But we have to go out and get the next version of him that's healthy. So that's where those trades, that's why we want to trade them. So it's not about unproven players. It's about shifting resources.
Heavy Protection says, I think Kyle Shanahan is failing the 49ers on purpose. If he doesn't want to be here, why stay? Oh, man, that's a very serious accusation. Are you getting that vibe? No.
I am getting a vibe that he's out of control, that he's stressed out, that he's a little bit directionless right now. I think that we forget as fans, as players, former players, that they are fallible. And I think we are seeing him fail. I do. I don't think he's failing intentionally. I think Kyle Shanahan cares for the game. I think he wants a Super Bowl ring as badly as anyone. But the way he's going about it is definitely questionable. This question shouldn't be asked if there wasn't smoke, basically. And where there's smoke, there's fire. People say, I don't think he'd do that to his career. I don't. I think he might be dejected, depressed, being unprofessional. I think he's showing a human side of him we don't want to see and he should not show. But I don't think he's doing this intentionally. I think this is literally, he's screwing up. Yes, but he's not doing this intentionally. I don't think so. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think he's doing it intentionally. I mean, it would give him too much credit. Like he's some evil genius, and the only time he struggles is when he sandbags himself. Like maybe he's just not that good. Maybe he's just had one good year and a good year in Atlanta. Maybe we had too high of an opinion of him. Maybe he's just overrated. I think that's more likely. Maybe he also is extremely arrogant and thinks that kind of like Chip Kelly. Like Chip Kelly, when he was losing 13 in a row, never crossed his mind that he could lose his job. It's like, what? It's not my fault. What do you mean? My first year. I'm going to be here next year. I think there's a part of Kyle's like, man, I just got a 6-year extension. I'm great. Everyone knows that if I were to get fired, I'd be like hired right away. They're not going to do that. Maybe he's wrong. He's often wrong. So I don't know. Maybe part of him is just like, it's a throwaway year. They made me take Lance. He's not ready. I'll just mess around. And like next year, I'll do better.
I would say this. One of the things that drives me as a martial artist are three things, but two things in particular. That is that I have yet to take a loss in my career. That means everyone is gunning for me. So I'm at the gym all the time. I'm running, I'm swimming, I'm powerlifting, I'm bodybuilding, I'm heavy lifting. Everything drives me to retain not the number one spot in what I do, but rather just to maintain my competitive edge. Mm. You should never feel comfortable with where you are because fame, power, your job, it's fleeting and it can go away like that. So I would hope that his extension has not made him comfortable. So if it's possible, it has, but it definitely should not.
It could be the extension. It could be the late night dinner parties with Jed York, where Jed York seems to be like tweeting late at night kind of stuff that I would tweet if I had had a few too many drinks. That kind of maybe the buddy atmosphere that's in that organization is giving Kyle a sense of security. Like, look, Jed thinks I like him. You know, Jed thinks we're friends. Jim Harbaugh couldn't like stand to be in his presence, but I'm like, you know, I hang out with him. So
absolutely no. I think Kyle Shanahan, in a military sense, Jed York is the CNO. He's the chief of naval operations. He's an admiral, and then Kyle Shanahan is this young, kind of hot captain, basically that thinks, hey, I get to hang out with the admiral all the time. I don't have to say sir. I don't have to salute. Well, no, he needs to pull the chain, and absolutely Shanahan. Here's the thing: we are speculating. We don't know everything that Jed York is saying, but at the same time. There needs to be the party after the Super Bowl is decay, like that to me continues, and just Shanahan is a little bit too young-minded sometimes. I feel he also should not be hanging out with his team. He should be distanced. Leaders should not be out partying with their boys.
We got to wrap this. We got to wrap this up. It's almost 5:00 here on the West Coast, and Friday night is date night for me. So got to keep the. You know what I'm saying? Trey Niners
actually.
Trey Niner says start Dre over Norman, please. What do you think? How about Diamador? How about a young guy? Can we stop bearing young guys who are not necessarily worse than the vet off the street that they're sitting behind?
Here's the thing: even if Lenoir was worse, let me ask this I like this fan for the record. But let me just ask you this: they're not going to be here next year. They might be crippled by the time they play next year. What do we gain by playing them? We need Lenoir.
Nothing. It's again, it's the same stuff.
You know what we need him to be? Almost as good as CJ Mosley or Emmanuel Mosley, almost as good as Emmanuel Mosley backup, so that we can draft someone who's better than him. Because next year our Verrett might get injured, and suddenly it's going to be Eman and Lenoir, and we don't want to be in the bargain basement again. So don't play your bargain basement players. Play your rookies.
Cinema Pigeon says Frank Clark of the Chiefs said to challenge Jimmy G's checkdowns and they'd win the Super Bowl, that he'd have to throw the ball. Teams don't fear Jimmy at all. It's true.
That's what I said earlier. Defense focuses on the short pass, give him the middle of the field, and they try to force him to pass it down the field. He can't do that.
Gammon says comments should be answered at the end of each topic. Comments usually pertain to those comments. You usually make videos just on those topics. Thanks, Gammon. And I appreciate your perspective here. The problem is sometimes we'll do a topic and then I'll take questions. And then the question period goes for like a half an hour. And there's other stuff we wanted to talk about. So it's not that simple. I hear where you're coming from. I'll consider it and I'll get back to you.
Awesome.
Kittle is injury prone, but Jimmy's bad throws add. Sure.
Yeah, well, we've been saying that behind the pass, high, bringing your guys to a stop, it just gives the defense time to tee off on your guy. Absolutely.
I bet you Ambry Thomas is better than we think. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it.
Physical tools. Remember, he had 13 reps on the bench press at 225. That's strong for a corner.
Aaron Banks,
that's
too.
Pretty good.
Can we see it for ourselves?
I don't know how good our secondary coaching is right now. That's the thing. It's hard to judge. Doesn't seem good.
Yep. All right, Sybilla. Thanks for doing this Mondo show with me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Heck of a
This is a
show.
great one. I think this was our best yet.
I think it was our best yet.
And
have a
thanks
great
for the trivia question. I love that. That now we get to listen to your show. I like that. That was fun.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everyone. I think I'm gonna bring the Gohn phone back tomorrow. I gotta work on the logistics, but bear with me. Gohn phone tomorrow morning. See what we can do. See you guys.